Welcome. Thank you for coming this evening. Chat in the second house of the Department of Public Health Sciences. We're happy to see lots of prospective students. Some of you have already met before through other fairs, and you're also welcome. Nice to see you. So tonight we are going to show you what the Department of Public Health Sciences can offer to master students and to doctoral students. This is the agenda for the evening. I'll start by doing welcome and introductions. Then I'll walk you through the 5 divisions that we have, the division presentations, the overview of all the programs that we offer. We'll have a Q&A with faculty, because really that's what you really are here for, to hear from faculty and to hear from students, from current students and from alumni. We'll also have the Director of Admissions speak with you about the intricacies of the application process, and then you'll have a Q&A with students, and then closing remarks. So, can I just have sort of a show of hands of what the audience looks like? Are most of you here for masters or for doctoral? How many for masters? Okay, and then for doctoral? Okay. So we have sort of a mixed bag, which is what we want in public health. You want diversity, you want a mixed crowd. So we're going to begin the presentation tonight by showing you a very short 2-minute video that's put together by the Association of Public Health Association. To so many people. It's the physical, it's the social. And it's the mental well-being. So that video sort of covers what public health is again. It's community education, it's disease prevention, it's clean water, it's looking at the entire life cycle of a human being and health equity, because ultimately what you want the highest standard of health for every human being. So again, what you'll see tonight is what is public health from the point of view of different divisions. And you'll also understand why public health at the University of Miami, because we have very unique attributes that you really will not find anywhere else. But before I get into introductions with the faculty and the students, I really also want to just point out that we also have all our staff members here from part of the public sciences that really also contribute towards your education and are here to support you through academic advising, through the Capstone Program, so I want to go ahead and just mention that as well. So these are the degrees that we offer. You'll hear from every single program tonight. The Mph and Mph. We also have an accelerated Mph program, which can actually be completed in a year's time. You essentially start in the summer, and you go 12 consecutive months. We have a 4+1 program, which is available to undergraduate students, where you do a 1-year Mph, but you begin the Mph program as a senior in your undergrad. We have 3 advanced degrees: biostatistics, climate and health, and prevention science and community health. We also have 3 doctoral degrees, and we have several general degrees, including an MD-Mph program, which is the largest MD-Mph program in the nation. You'll hear more about that later, but it's very unique. It's one of 5 programs that offers a degree in just 4 years. So I talked about what is public health and why UN. So there are many things that make University of Miami unique. One is our reputation. We're actually housed in the School of Medicine. That's a great advantage to us. Our faculty are working on cutting-edge research with the School of Medicine. And I hope most of you know that UN was the first medical school in Florida. So we have a great faculty. We have over 60 faculty that are student-centered leaders with great funding, over $11 million in NIH funding. Miami itself is a great place to study public health. It's very unique. It expands beyond Coral Gables and Brickell and South Beach, is what a lot of the undergraduate students come to think of Miami. But it's Liberty City, it's Overtown, it's Little Haiti, it's Little Havana. All those neighborhoods are within 3-mile radius of our medical campus. So our faculty are working with those communities in a very in-depth manner. We have a very inclusive culture. I spoke before about public health and why you need different opinions. So this is very important to us. When you're in a classroom, you're there with students that look like you, that are perhaps undergrad, straight out of college, sociology, anthropology majors, but you're also there with physicians that have 25 years of experience. You're there with nurses, with dentists. So it's a very great opportunity to look at public health with different points of view. And then one thing that really sets us apart is our Capstone program that I want to speak about some more. So our Capstone is one of our great focuses of our program, in the sense that we assign a lot of resources to it. You have an advisor that works with you to make sure that all your administrative requirements are completed. She is an associate director that also works with you on your professional and career goals. You have a faculty advisor that's also working with you, and that faculty advisor is working with you to make sure that your outcomes, your career goals are aligned with your degree. So whatever it is that your career goals are, they're going to ensure that your capstone is something that's appropriate and is going to strengthen that position for you once you graduate. And again, also advise you on the courses that you need in order to be able to fulfill your capstone. So that's a very unique experience. We also offer funding for the capstone, which is also very unique. You don't have to apply for scholarships for the capstone, but if you want to take your capstone sort of above and beyond what's required of you academically, you have to apply, and our students have gone almost all over the world for the capstone. Something you'll also learn about that's new to us this year is that we're also offering scholarships, for up to 25% scholarships for students entering the program as a full 45-degree Mph or Mph program. So we really have a lot of new opportunities that are hopefully going to expand your horizons and meet your long-term academic goals. These are the 5 divisions that we have: biostatistics, environmental public health, epidemiology, population health sciences, health services research and policy, and prevention science and community health. You will learn about each of these divisions tonight, either through faculty or through one of the students attending tonight. First up is Dean Prado, Dr. Willie Prado, who is the division director for our Division of Prevention Science and Community Health. He's also the dean of the graduate school, and he's also an alum of the program.
Good afternoon, everybody. That's pretty good for excellent. Or you're videotaping. Oh, I see. I hate mics, a little uncomfortable with them. That's okay. All right, so I hope everybody's doing well this evening. I'm here to talk to you a little bit about the Division of Prevention Science and Community Health. So how many of you, questions, I'll start off with a question. How many of you believe that life expectancy has increased over the past couple of years? Everybody? I have some phenomenal peripheral vision, so I can tell whether everybody's voting or not, no matter where you're sitting and no matter where I'm so how many say that's been increasing? How many say it's been decreasing? So more so, yeah. So for the first time in our history, this is going to be not in our history, for the first time in a very long time, this is the first time that life expectancy is going to decrease for the 3rd consecutive year in a row in the past 100 years. Time prior to that was 1915, 1918. 2 big events that you may be familiar with, World War I and the Spanish pandemic, right? So why is it that, irrespective of all of these medical advances, is it that life expectancy has decreased? Because really, where we make most impact in terms of life expectancy is not with treatment or with medicine, it's with public health and prevention. Right? And so let me tell you a little bit about what the Division of Prevention Science and Community Health does. So we host 2 of the graduate degrees in the department. One of them is a PhD program, and you'll hear from my good friend and colleague, Dr. Schwartz, speak about the PhD program. And the second one is a master's program in prevention science and community health. Now, I won't tell you about the programs because you'll hear from them, but let me tell you very briefly sort of about the faculty and what we do. So we're all very interested in preventing disease by one, understanding factors that are related to those particular health outcomes. And second, we develop programs or interventions to prevent these types of problems. So our 7 faculty who work in the area of HIV/AIDS, who work in drug abuse, who work in obesity, who work in depression, who work in suicide, and we work with many different populations, including adults, adolescents, Hispanics, sexual minorities, juvenile justice youth. Sort of we cut across the spectrum, and we work in these areas. So for example, Dr. Sarah St. George, she does research in obesity prevention, and her current study is to effectively develop a parenting intervention through mobile technology, exclusively delivered on a mobile app, as a way to promote physical activity and quality diet among Hispanic youth. And we have another faculty member who's very interested in social network analysis and in the role that social networks play in HIV prevention and substance abuse. Okay? So our research also happens in many parts of the country. For example, Dr. Schwartz has studies on the West Coast. He's had studies in the Northeast. We have studies going on right now in Chicago. We have studies going on in Colombia, in Brazil, in Chile, and in Ecuador, to name a few. Okay, so if you're an MS student in prevention or a PhD student in prevention, and you want opportunities to engage in research both here in the US and internationally, you will have those opportunities, as you will have opportunities to work in a number of different areas with different populations that are very representative of the public health problems we see in the nation, as well as the diversity of not only Miami, but really the diversity of our country and the world. So I'm particularly biased. I think this is a great place to study public health. Even though now I spend 50% of my time doing administrative work here at the University of Miami and being Dean of the Graduate School, what gave me this opportunity was my public health degree. So I really believe that if I would have not stayed here at the university to get my PhD in public health, I genuinely believe that I would not be Dean here or anywhere else for that matter. Because this is a place where really the opportunities are there, you just have to know how to capitalize on those. So I hope that some of you are interested, I hope all of you are interested in public health, and I hope that some of you are interested in prevention science and community health. And if you are, I'll be here till the very end, so I look forward as we continue going.
Up next, you'll hear from the Division of Epidemiology and Population Health Sciences from Dr. Tamir Asfar.
Thank you very much. Hello everyone. I just want to mention first that I graduated from this program, MSPH, so it was huge to just move from here to here. Yes, so I do smoking cessation, I do tobacco control research, almost everything, epidemiology, smoking cessation trial and prevention more recently. My main interest is to reduce tobacco use among high-risk population, like HIV patients and cancer survivors. So I'm running now 2 clinical trials to test and develop a smoking cessation program to reduce the help them with smoking and at the same time reduce their anxiety and depression. I'm also interested in tobacco policy and regulation. I have an international project in 2 countries in the Middle East to develop health warning label with ugly pictures for hookah smokers. About my departments, we have 7 faculties. We have 2 faculties in cancer epidemiology. We have Dr. Pinero, he's doing research to study health disparity in lung cancer, incidence and outcomes. We have also Dr. Kumish, who is interested in improving outcomes among breast cancer patients. We have Dr. Lee, who is the director of the graduate program, and he's mainly interested in chronic disease and occupational health, and he get a new grant, big one, to improve hearing loss among Hispanic minorities. We also have Dr. Hermes Flores, and he is also interested in prevention and treatment of diabetes and cardiovascular disease. And we have Dr. Wewe, who is the director of the PhD program in epidemiology. And Dr. Wewe also, she's a cardiovascular disease epidemiologist. And finally, we have Dr. Al-Fasi, who is also interested in hypertension disparity among Hispanic. So almost this is everything. If you have any questions, we hope to see you. We have a lot of research going on, which could be a good opportunity for capstone or thesis. So looking forward to seeing you soon.
So up next, you'll hear from Dr. Viviana Horrigan, who is the Director of Public Health Education, and she'll speak with you about the Mph and Mph program, which also includes the accelerated and the 4+1 program.
So good afternoon. I'm thrilled to see this incredible turnout. I'm Viviana Horrigan. I direct the Mph and MSPH program, but I'm also a clinician and a researcher at heart. My area, so the program made reference to the decrease in life expectancy. My area of research is drug abuse treatment, and one of the drivers of the reduction on the life expectancy is the epidemic that we're having on opioids and coming along, we are seeing increased prices in methamphetamine and cocaine. My area of research is really how do we improve service delivery and practice and push evidence-based interventions to improve the health of individuals. That's research. So I'm now going to move into really the educational part, and what I'm passionate about is developing capacities not only in systems as we improve practice and treatment, also in organizations, and part of this work we have done together with colleagues in Latin America, particularly my area of work was in Mexico. But I'm very passionate on how do we develop also capacities at the individual level. And that's where I'm very passionate about our programs of education. So we have two, I'm gonna just focus on these two programs that I oversee. Both of the programs, the MPH and MSPH, are 45 credit programs. I'm very excited about the MPH, and so are many in the nation, because we had an opportunity to really, all the schools and programs in public health, to review and revise our curriculum offering. And as a result of that offering, anybody that joined after, I don't know why it's going on. I'm moving too fast.
Okay, there.
As a result of that offering, of that exercise, we improved our offering in the MPH. And the core courses for the MPH are now touching general areas in public health, but we have a concentration, which we call it the generalist concentration, that resulted as a dialogue with our employers in South Florida on the skills that they thought that our students should be obtaining to go to the workforce. So there's a set of courses that are part of what we call here generalist courses that have been informed by that dialogue. There's also 4 electives that you can choose. Let's say that you say, okay, I really want to have expertise in global health. So you could pick those 4 electives in global health and global health courses. You could do the same by picking courses in prevention. If you want to have a little bit of a sampler of different courses, you can choose from any division. Begonia was making reference to what's the hallmark of our approach to the Capstone Experience, and that's a field experience where our students partner with community organizations, where they dedicate their time to understanding the problems that they face, and as a result of that involvement with those partners, they develop a project that will address the needs of the partner as a capstone project. And that you can, the products could be very different in nature, could be a needs assessment, could be an outreach campaign, could be a research project. We are very, very flexible in the approach. Day one, you join the program, you'll have a faculty advisor. And that faculty advisor will guide you not only on your study plan, but also in how, based on your interest, you should draw or reach out to organizations so that you could do your field experience and capstone there, and therefore that could potentially be a springboard to your employment. We have students that did their capstone in the Children's Trust when they were then employed by the Children's Trust. We have students that did a partnership with the Pediatric Mobile Clinic, were then employed by the Pediatric Mobile Clinic. So yeah, I know that Andrea will talk about graduate outcomes, so where do our students go when they graduate? But being smart on who you select as a partner is critical, as it creates a pipeline on where you will end up working. We have opportunities not only locally, you don't have to go very far away to find, disparities or inequities in our population. They are really around our campus. You can see them there. But if you're passionate about international work, we support work abroad, and our focus really is in the Americas because we are a hemispheric university, and our students also can travel during the summer to do this type of work. For the MSPH, so let's go back. So for the MSPH, this is an academic degree. The difference is that you would be selecting method courses, and you have a portfolio of method courses you might want to select. It's not a professional degree, but an academic degree. And instead of doing a field experience and a capstone, your deliverable is a thesis. So it is a research project, very much data-driven. And that's the numbers of credits are the same. That's the main difference between the two of them. Let's move. Thank you. So I talked about the capstone, and we are very passionate, and we think that no matter what you do, an MPH or an MSPH, your commitment should be to give back to the community by answering questions that will eventually help our members in the community. And we define community very broadly. It could be, our partners and providers in healthcare. It could be partners, NGOs, locally or abroad. So it is up to really you to steer your career and your interest and thinking on where is it that I want to do next. As you heard from some of previous presenters, we have, some of us have been there, where you're sitting today and have carved our professions and our careers by falling into the things that the opportunities that the university can offer. And I think that I was just to talk 3 minutes. Right? I could continue talking and talking about this. So, but I am here for questions. I really love talking to prospective students, to current students, to alums. You can talk to other students that are here, they will attest to that. And I would be delighted to hear your questions, your interests, and exploring which ways can our program or I could help draft the course of your career. Thank you so much for coming.
And yes, we will actually share with you the presentation and the contact information for all the faculty on the trip, so you're welcome to reach out to any of us afterwards. Up next is Dr. Robert King, who is the Senior Associate Dean for Diversity, Inclusion, and Community Engagement, as well as the Director of the Mph Program. Okay.
All right, can you guys hear me? Yes. All right, good evening, everyone. My name is Roderick King. He has a life of his own. Okay. And I am a pediatrician by training. And what I'd like to do, because I only have 3 minutes, is tell you why it's critically important to look and train in medicine and do public health. So I trained as a pediatrician a long time ago, and I had the opportunity of going overseas to Africa to work. And while I was there, started to notice this pattern of why kids were malnourished in a certain neighborhood. When I came back to the U.S., started asking questions, why are black mothers dying more often than white mothers in childbirth? And then started asking other questions of why is life expectancy in Brickell 15 years longer than Overtown? And when you start asking these questions as a clinician, you start going down this path of trying to understand what's happening around population health. And this is what Dr. Prado was sharing before, where prevention science and other strategies come into play to try to figure out how do you keep communities and neighborhoods healthy. So through the MD-MPH program, our goal is to empower students to transform lives and inspire them to serve the global community. And through the MD-MPH program, as mentioned, it's a 4-year program. So what's great about it is that the same 4 years you would use to finish medical school, you also come out with a master's in public health. But the program is also integrated, meaning that you learn public health coursework while you're doing your clinical lessons at the same time. So when you come out, you actually have this wealth of knowledge of what I would argue to make you become an effective change agent. Because when you look at some of the major issues in public health, population health, as a clinician, you now have the power to be able to both command the bully pulpit as a doctor, but also at the same time be a public health expert. And you'll see this pattern if you look at people that have been Surgeon General, folks that have been state secretaries of health, etc. They tend to have a foot in both worlds. So the Mph program is a joint program that combines both learnings from public health and clinical medicine, with the hope that when you come out, that you will build on that through your training to be able to answer those questions as to why. And that's really the crux of it. I mean, if you're interested in some of the specifics, I can tell you about each class and all that kinds of stuff. But really the goal is to create a new generation of leaders, who you'll hear from later. And you'll get to hear some of the fantastic work that they're doing. And that's the generation that you guys are coming into. You guys are about social justice. You guys are about fixing the world. You're about trying to change things in the world. And the Mph program is a great mechanism to be able to do that as a clinician population health leader. Thank you.
So up next will be Dr. David Lee, who is a division, the Division of Epidemiology and Population Health Sciences, but he's going to speak to you about EMS program, correct?
Hi, I'm Pichinti for our graduate program director who went home ill today. So I'm a terrible person to represent the biostatistics program because I could not get through our MS in biostatistics degree program because I am just, I don't want to say that I'm math challenged, but I don't have a certain level of quantitative abilities that would qualify me for pursuing an MS in biostatistics. However, there are probably people in the room here that have both the aptitude and the love of mathematics. And if you are sitting here in the room, then our MS in biostatistics may be the training program for you. It's a lockstep program. It's designed to get you in and out of your master's degree program and then out into the workforce where you have a wealth of job opportunities in the private sector, like pharmaceutical companies, or you could stay in a medical school setting and embed on research teams doing data analyses for clinical trials and other research projects. So it's a really exciting program. And then if you find that not enough of a challenge, we have a PhD program in biostatistics as well. So if you wake up dreaming solving mathematics problems, then perhaps the PhD in biostatistics will be for you. So I'm happy to answer any questions offline if for anyone who has interest in either of those programs.
The next program we're going to learn about is the MS in Climate and Health, which is a new program, and Dr. Naresh Kumar will be discussing that as the program director.
Thank you, Begonia. I'm sorry to hear that nobody asked you how you're feeling. Are you cold? You're hot?
We can't control the temperature.
So, quite exactly.
Here we are in Miami. Some of you are wearing jackets, some of you are wearing shirt, feeling hot and cold. These things are changing. So how many of you believe in climate change? So change is going to happen. It has happened hundreds of times. So get prepared. So the program is designed, one of a kind, first program in the nation that marries climate with health. There is no other program of this kind. I'm sure you know about, we have 3 different campuses. Marine campus, we call it Rosen Street School of Marine and Atmospheric Sciences. These guys are generally very good in oceanic current circulation, atmospheric circulation, forecasting hurricanes and other things. But they don't train students in what are potential health impact of any of these things. So we try to have a collaboration with those folks to train students in understanding the climate, meteorological factors, and as the climate is changing, what kind of potential disease burden we are going to anticipate. So the student, this program will provide a key understanding of this integrate relationship between climate, weather, and changing climatic patterns, extreme weather, and human health impacts and their persistence over time. That's one part. Second part, when you take a course in epidemiology or biostatistics, you simply try to analyze some of the data sets that are not kind of typical data sets. In climate, the type of data that you see from weather forecasts coming from satellites, some model predictions. You are speaking with clinicians, there are very simple data sets. To marry the climate data with the health data is a very challenging aspect. So this program will train students in providing skills such that you are able to marry these data. So once you marry these data, you can generate some empirical evidences. And those empirical evidences then in turn can help guide policies. Just to give you an example, Dorian just passed by, right? Now we are seeing forest fire in California. So what kind of environmental conditions are changing because of these forest fires or hurricanes? And for how long these health impacts persist for a long time? So quantifying those health impacts, tying this to the economic burden of disease associated with changing climatic patterns and geological conditions, then only can guide policy say, hey, the total disease burden is this much. You must have seen about the health impacts of Hurricane Maria, right? About fewer than 70 deaths, but that's not the case. Dr. Swartz does work on mental health assistance. We have many of the immigrants who came to Florida. Their life is upside down, economy changed, everything is changed. So some of them might have onset of depression, anxiety that will persist over life course. Some of them might have become handicapped, that's loss of normal life. So you calculate the total cost related to Hurricane Maria, that's much more larger than the cost that we get from FEMA. So the program is designed to help understand these estimated costs of the changing climatic pattern and weather conditions. And once we have that understanding, then we can engage policymakers, different stakeholders in managing those impacts. And it will be much easier to convince public about those impacts than the current knowledge that we have. So the program is designed to help understand all the changes that are happening related to climate and weather, their health impacts, and prepare future generations of researchers, policymakers, decision makers to mitigate those impacts. So if you have any question, please do send me an email, or we also have a link. Orlando, can you get the link? On this link, we have the symposium from the last time. Every year, we do organize a symposium on climate and health. And that does provide how we engage different stakeholders and also researchers in quantifying the disease burden associated with different aspects of climate. So if you have any questions, please do send me an email at kumar@miami.edu. I'll be happy to speak to you about the program. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Dr. Naresh. So the third Master of Science program you'll hear about is Prevention, Science, and Community Health, and you'll hear from Dr. Bravo once again.
Hello again. So I'm here to briefly speak about the MS in Prevention Science. So it's a lockstep 33-credit program. This is a thesis program, so it really is pretty research intensive. The rest of the 9 classes are you take classes in methods being very broadly defined, from classes in biostatistics, in qualitative research, in community-based participatory research, in research methods, clinical trials, and then you take courses in your content areas around prevention science and health disparities, in developing prevention programs, evaluating these programs, and then implementing them and integrating them into community practice so that they can really have an impact. I do want to say briefly that I think we have best students across the institution in the MS and PhD programs in prevention. I guarantee that if you speak to any one of them, I think one of them is here today, somewhere, yes, there's Natasha. She'll tell you that all of our students are extremely happy. All of them came in with a scholarship, with a partial scholarship, and every single one of the students who wanted a graduate assistantship was linked to one and integrated themselves within the research of the faculty members. So please speak to any one of the 3 of us if you're interested in prevention. If you want to improve the lives of communities, of families, of individuals. This is a great program, I promise.
That includes the master's programs that we offer. So it's the Mph, MSPH, Accelerated Mph, 4+1, 3 programs. We have over 5 joint degrees. In addition to that, we also have 3 doctoral programs. We've got a PhD in Prevention Science and Community Health, a PhD in Biostatistics, and a PhD in Epidemiology. And you'll hear from the program director from Prevention Science and Community Health, and then also Andrea Williams will later tell you all the requirements, because they all have unique requirements for admissions. So up next, we have Dr. Seth Schwartz, who will present on the PhD in Prevention Science and Community Health.
Okay, thank you, Begonia. Can you all hear me? I don't know if this is working. Okay, so I'm basically going to piggyback on what was just actually said by Dr. Prado. Our program is now in its 5th year. We've just recently graduated our first couple of people, with several more set to finish in the next year or so. Our program basically spans the whole range, from etiology, where we sort of want to learn how a health problem works, what the risk factors are for it, to how to design interventions, how to test interventions, how to disseminate interventions. We are really, really heavy on methods and stats, because we want our people to be able to run, to hopefully at least be able to collaborate on the analyses of their own data. And our goal is to actually put out highly competent people who are really going to help to let's just say actually reverse the trend. The life expectancy is going down. Because we know that of the, I believe, actually top 10 causes of death in this country, at least I think 7 of them can actually are behavioral. Substance use, car crashes, suicide, even cancer, you can say, is at least somewhat behavioral. We can actually prevent these things. And so ours was actually, I believe, either the first or the second PhD program in the country like this. And since we started back in 2015, several have actually followed our lead. But I still think obviously we're the best. We do have absolutely amazing students, and I will actually capitalize on what has been said earlier, is that actually Miami is the greatest place to do this sort of work. Because we have the whole world here in our backyard. We can study cultural diversity without actually leaving home. In fact, that's actually what I do. And our faculty are highly regarded, well-funded. We have currently 18 PhD students in our program. All of them are doing very well and funded. So I would encourage all of you to certainly think about this sort of a degree that can really, really help us to actually transform the world and get us back on the track that we were on 50 years ago. So I certainly look forward to hearing some of you.
Those are all very important comments that you made. To know how much of what we do to ourselves is preventable. So we are now going to open this up for faculty to join these, join us here in front, please. And please feel free to ask any questions you have.
Questions for the faculty? Yes.
I want to direct my question to the Dr. What is a competitive applicant for the MD program? And this is a new
It's not too late to apply, as long as you've taken your MCATs and other preparatory materials. The competitive applicant has an MCAT score probably around 510, 515, somewhere around there. I think the average in the last incoming class, sorry, but I didn't put down, do you remember? I think it was about
Because your MCAT score doesn't define you.
Actually, she was successful, so you knew what she did. You get it. Usually what they're looking for are students that had some kind of public health exposure. You don't have to necessarily obviously get your public health degree, but they're looking for students that have an interest in population health. And in particular, what's starting to happen is that they're now looking for diversity of majors. So we're now starting to see, particularly in incoming class this year, with the greatest diversity we've had of student majors, where we've had anthropology majors, global health majors, English majors. So they're trying to really expand the pool of the types of students that are coming in, and not necessarily science or pre-med. Now that doesn't mean you aren't competitive in pre-med, but those are things that kind of make you stand out.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Ruben. This is a question for any of you who did attend the university here for your public health degree. I'm Dr. Bravo. You mentioned that you were one of those folks. As a student and as an applicant, what drew you specifically here to UM? And what faculty members in your time did you connect with based on their research and their focuses of study?
You're on the spot, you brought it.
So I tell you, I'm a double alumni. So I was a master's student in statistics, and at the time I met a PhD student in statistics who's now a faculty member in our department as well. And so he needed a TA, and I started working full time. I'm one of these individuals who didn't have a direct path to a PhD program and had a few years in between. And while working with him, I discovered a passion for working on drug abuse and HIV prevention. And I was the first in my family to go to college, and to be honest with you, a PhD program was not anywhere near the horizon. And so he's the one that said, well, if you want to work on your own grants, because I had told him I didn't want to work on his grants anymore, even though I really appreciated the opportunity, he said, well, if you want to do your own, you have to get a PhD. And so I started speaking to a lot of folks. I ended up in public health, and because I was so interested in working with Hispanics and drug abuse and HIV, this was the perfect place, right? So HIV was and still is highest here in Miami-Dade County. Unfortunately, you know, we're an enclave, right, of Hispanics from all over the world. And what I had seen with all of the individuals that I had worked with during my time here, prior to my PhD, is that the mentorship was phenomenal. So there was no other place where any friends of mine had been to, and still this is the fact, that every faculty member opens doors to students to do whatever it is they want to do. If they want to work on publications, guess what? You're working on publications. If you want to work on a grant, you're going to work on a grant. Even so, if you want to be principal investigator and lead your own grant, which is highly unusual as a student anywhere in the country, and you can ask around, this place will do that. The faculty here will speak to the Office of the Vice Provost for Research to make an exception for that to happen. That happened with me, that happens with our current students right now. So honestly, you just have to be willing to capitalize and to want it enough to be able to say, this is what I want to do, and the opportunities to be given to you.
You're in the law. You're the only other law upstairs.
So, can you repeat the question?
I was just asking what drew you specifically to UM, and then when you were studying here, what faculty were you drawn to based on their research or their focus of study?
Sure. So actually, I'm originally from Syria, so I started working there. I'm MD. I started as an MD. And then I think something similar happened to me, like what happened to Dr. Prado. We opened a research center, the first research center in Syria, and it was to establish like a tobacco control research center in a developing country, and it was NIH funded. And because of my background, I took care of the smoking cessation treatment, so smoking cessation trial. But actually the problem was way more than I expected, because like in Syria, smoking, almost we have 57% of the population smoke. And at that time, that was in 2005, there was basically no treatment, nothing for smoking cessation in the whole country. Like, so you have half of your population smoke, and you don't have any treatment. And it happens to me once that a patient came and he said, I'm dying. He was a COPD patient. I'm dying, please treat me. I just want to stop smoking. So I think that event really made that connection for me, like where I pursue it. And I came to the US because, you know, the trouble in the Middle East that is continuing. And I spent like 4 years in Memphis, Tennessee. I was at St. Jude Children's Research Hospital. So basically I just kept doing the same thing. It's my passion. I participated in a national smoking cessation trial for childhood cancer. And then I moved to Miami, and I sent an email to Dr. Lee just a week before moving. I said, hey, this is my CV. I want to do something here. And actually, since then, I worked with him. We did a lot of grants, a lot of trials, and we're still working on many. So this is basically what's my. So if you like something, just keep doing. I think.
I wanted to understand more the daily life of an individual who has the MD and MPH or MD and MSPH. So I wanted to ask for Dr. King and Aspar. Dr. King and Dr. Aspar, how is your daily life as individuals who have an MD and MPH or MD and an MSPH degree career-wise?
We actually have a third MD on the panel, which is Dr. Origian. So we have 3 MDs that have a public health focus.
Well, I'm still trying to figure out. It's not easy. I always go home with like a lot of papers in my bag, and I have to put my children to sleep and then try to, sneak for 1 hour reading. But I mean, if you like to do it, that's it. And I think anything really needs a lot of commitment. Not only, in any area, you have to be really very committed to what improving?
It's a great question, but it's hard to answer because most MD MPHers do a wide variety of things. As I mentioned, the way I kind of break it up into kind of buckets is those MD MPHers that do research or research and clinical work. So they'll spend part of the time in clinic and part of the time doing research. Then you have some that just do only research. Then you have MD, MPH physicians that do what we call public health practice. So they may be in the health department, or they might be Secretary of State or a health minister somewhere international. And then you have those MD, MPHs that do more policy. So they may be more in governmental agencies, like in Washington or Tallahassee, these places. And they're sort of behind the scenes trying to change legislation around improving, that will help to improve the health of populations. So depending on where you are in which of those kinds of areas, your day-to-day kind of changes, basically. But for me personally, on any given day, I'm kind of like the product of a big part of my time is administrative, so I'll put that aside because that's kind of boring. But at any given day, I'm either working on a new grant research project we're looking at, which is training young men that are in juvenile detention to become community health workers to do mental health outreach. And then I'll shift gears, and I might be mentoring and talking to some of the students around their research projects, like Sarah and others, to help them think through. We're just thinking through now doing a community-based research project to look at toxic stress and the impact of pregnant moms in Palm Beach County. And then, an hour later, I was over at the Customs and Border Patrol building at the airport giving a talk on the importance of diversity in healthcare. So, on any given day, my schedule is all over the place. But usually, the work changes depending on where that particular individual sort of carved out their career.
So I think that's a phenomenal explanation because it really spans based on what is it your regular work is. So I'm a psychiatrist by training. I don't do clinical work here in the United States. I did all my examinations. But my day, I also have a family and I have children. Maybe your question was here to life-work balance. I don't know what it was. Yes, is that what you were asking, or is
I
more
want to know more like career-wise, what can you do?
what you can do? The world is open to you, and I would say that anything and everything you can do. So I spend time doing research, and the research is not like isolated. So first I work with community partners that are providing access. My area is substance abuse treatment, and it really spans from use to dependence, what we're looking at. So it's early detection, stopping, and really improving or preventing relapse. So we're looking at the entire spectrum, but we work in real. I work with partners that provide treatment in real world. So what are the challenges, and their challenges inform the next questions that are needed for the field. So it's not all, what's the data showing is can providers and researchers partner to improve practice. And then we test interventions, some of them that have proven to be to work, but in real world, will this work for any patient that comes to it? So that I spend a significant amount of my day directing a center, that's one of 13 centers in the country, that really test this type of intervention. So I have a lot of fun with that. I'm very passionate about the work with students, so I could spend time with students as they're exploring what would be their own research question and how can, through their questions, improve the quality or the health of community partners. We also teach, and and that's also part of our work. So teaching and education is part of what we do too. And we also spend some time in administration, and of course in giving back to the public. And you can do that by communicating, presenting, talking to the media. So that's, I think, about it. But I would say that a degree in public health, the sky is the limit. You can take it, it's really very broad and so multidisciplinary. You heard Dr. Kumar talking about the environment. So you can take it to where you're passionate.
You have a question? Because I do want to be mindful of the time, and I want to make sure the student panel also gets a chance. So maybe we'll just do one more question? Oh my goodness gracious.
Well, then we'll just have one person answer it quickly,
Okay,
and we'll get to vote.
let's do one question. We'll just have one faculty answer. Yeah.
Hi, my name is Lauren Johnson, and I have a question for Dr. Kumar. I'm interested in your Advanced in Climate and Health program, since I have a large interest in climate change since I majored in geochemistry. But since I became a high school chemistry teacher over a year ago, I've become more interested in policy, specifically quantifying the health disparities affected through climate change and putting it more into practice policy. So I was wondering if you can elaborate more the connection between the work you do in your laboratory and then also how do you put that into practice and affecting climate change.
All right, like we say, I'd like to have You said it rightly, because climate is extremely broad field, and in this program we have 4 different tracks. One of the track is connecting to the laboratory. For example, assume for a second in 2050, how much will be the pollen count, what will be the total number of mosquitoes, and the species are changing. So we mimic those experiments in the lab, train students in the toxicological knowledge. So what kind of environmental conditions are being changed? So based on those biophysiological responses, you take that knowledge and then put those in the projection scenario and then see what would be the total net burden of infectious disease in 2050, for example. Another goal will be based on those projections. Let's say if you want to convince what about the total burden of disease and in terms of cost of Hurricane Maria, for example, or Irma, for example, then are the FEMA estimates allocated to the communities, are those sufficient or not? So in other words, you are generating the biophysiological knowledge of the responses in response to the climate change and meteorological condition, and using that knowledge to convince decision makers to guide local as well as national and regional policies. So it has 4 different tracks. One of the tracks is the toxicological track. If you have strong knowledge and background in biochemistry, you will be working with some of the folks who run these laboratories in our campus. So every single day, I spend time on all three different campuses. And any campus I go to, my passion for the context of the climate and meteorology do change. In the morning, I'm generally on the marine campus, where I track the sub-Saharan dust that's going to be intensified down the road. Projection scenario, what will the net gain, what will the frequency and intensity, for example, forest fires. During daytime, I move to medical campus, and then it gives me passion to do the toxicological research. Say similar in pollens, what will be the total burden of pollens in 20 years from now. Then in the evening, I spend the correlated campus, and then I see what is the impact on the communities, for example. Communities here take more measures to prevent the burden of disease related to hurricanes, compared to if you drive further south and further going towards the Everglades. So we have another track is called the management, policy and management. Another track is the analytical track, because the data types are very different. These are the toxicological data, these 3-dimensional model data. So we have 4 different tracks in this program that can benefit. Let's say, for example, for the atmospheric track, let's say if there is a weather forecasters related to the weather forecasting. Right now, it was announcing what will be the heat wave, for example. But who will be at risk? What kind of heat stress they're going to experience? If they have that knowledge of the toxicology, that will be a net benefit for them. Okay.
Let's do, you want to do a question? Yeah.
Thank you guys so much for your time. My name is Abby, and I'm a freshman public health major, so I'm just starting out my journey, and it is beautiful to see all the many different ways public health can take shape, so thank you guys for your time. My question for you guys is, what is the greatest strength and weakness that you see in the Miami-Dade Department of Health in terms of like their programs and their outcome? What do you think of our Department of Health?
No, the State Department.
Boy, and we're being recorded. So I direct the cancer registry for the state of Florida, so we're contracted. We hold contract with the Florida Department of Health and run that. And so I do see the struggles that folks at the state level have to deal with. It can be politics, it could be lack of funding, it could be continual reorganizations that sort of impede their ability to perform the mission that they're passionate about. So I would say that's, and that's probably not unlike other states. But I think one of the real challenges in public health is that we, as a country, have underfunded. The needs are great, and the funding should be more than it is. And so that's where policy comes in, and advocacy for seeking appropriate funding to address the challenges that we face as a state and as a nation. I would say in terms of strengths, we're a very diverse state with diverse challenges, and I would say that as a whole, they take on, they leverage the resources that they have to achieve those goals. So I would say a big shout out to them for being persistent and being creative and working with what they have to deliver a healthier state.
Can I add one more point? By the way, our state, in terms of the public health department, is a model state. With regard to, for example, emergency preparedness operation, they're launching, tracking disease surveillance. For example, automation of IRB, you're looking for the entire statewide data. All of these are automated, highly professional, and highly efficient compared to many other states that I have seen.
Go Florida.
Okay.
So I want to thank our faculty for coming tonight. And this is sort of a testament of the faculty that we have in our department. It's very unique to have faculty this late at night, and they all committed to come in. So this is what you get in the Department of Public Sciences. And our students, we survey them over and over again on many things, and one of the things that always comes back is the accessibility and the involvement of faculty. So thank you for coming. Thank you for, I think it's So we're going to continue with Andrea Williams, who is our Director of Admissions, and she will walk you through some of the ins and outs of admissions. And also here, I want to point out, is Janelle Golnasar, who some of you have already started applying. So she's sort of our day-to-day runs the admissions operations for Andrea. Thank you.
Well, she does run it for the office, not for me personally. I'm not that lucky to have Janelle running my life. It would probably be much better. So I'm going to go through the application process fairly quickly, because what I really want you to do is, as you were able to speak to the faculty, is to speak to the students in the program. Obviously, our admissions information is on the website. You can always reach out to Janelle or myself. We meet with students daily. So I'd rather you really be able to get to talk to the students. Basically, in order to apply, you're going to go on to SOFAs, and that is the application data, the application system that we use for public health. And so you're going to be able to go on there and really apply to multiple schools, but definitely to the University of Miami. There's different parts of the application, so you're going to include your statement of purpose. So really, what are your goals? What do you want to do with your degree, depending on what program you're going into? That's important because the admissions committee can really get to know what your career goals are, and make sure that you're the right fit for the program. We're also going to require official transcripts from all institutions attended, your standardized test scores. So there are cases in which we will waive that requirement, but for the most part, the GRE is required. If you're applying with the MCAT, we will also accept that. But do not take the MCAT in order to apply to our program if you haven't already. So that's something you want to take when you are ready to take the MCAT. We do require 3 letters of recommendation from professors who have taught you, who know you well. If you are a career changer, perhaps, you will then probably provide us letters from supervisors, faculty and mentors that you've worked with, researchers. So we just need to have those 3 letters from professionals who can tell us a little bit more about you. And then your resume, your curriculum vitae, depending on what you've done. Now, we do not require a certain amount of hours done in public health prior to applying. We understand that you may not have that coming in. You will definitely have it going out once you graduate, but we do not have a specific number of hours. As far as your experiences, we want to make sure that we are accepting well-rounded students to the program, so everything you've done should be included on your application, whether it's work, volunteer, community service, clinical exposure, any research you've done, and then also things that make you, are enriching to you and what you enjoy. So letting us know a little bit more about yourself will help the admissions committee make that decision. So really just letting us know who you are, what you're passionate about, will be part of that admissions process. As far as dual degree applicants, you would apply, so we do have a few dual degree programs that you heard from Begonia. You will apply both through SOFAs and CollegeNet. And then our MD-MPH applicants will apply through AMCAS, which is a similar process, similar requirements that you will need through AMCAS in order to apply for that program. As far as our graduate deadlines for our graduate programs for spring 2020, so we do take students to start in the spring for most of our programs. November 1st is the priority deadline, which is really helpful for scholarships. And then December 15th is the final deadline. For fall 2020, March 1st is the priority deadline, and July 15th is the drop-dead final deadline to get you started for fall. Obviously, applying early, like I said, is very imperative for scholarship consideration and for other things. You do have access to a lot of different resources within the department, and as soon as we get you on, as part of the family, we can help work with you. There's many different opportunities. As far as the PhD programs, the PhD program, we take PhD students once a year, and so they start in the fall each year, and biostatistics, their deadline is January 31st, 2020. Epidemiology and prevention science and community health, their deadline is December 1st. We do have rolling admissions. Like I mentioned, applying early would be better. As far as really what you're going to be when you grow up, once you graduate from our programs, it really is up to you, and that's what I really hope you walk away from. We are a very flexible program, really built to make sure that you get to walk away with the experiences that you want to hopefully make a difference in whatever area you're going to go into in public health, and so it's really up to you what you want to do. We have very supportive faculty, as you met earlier, and also you're all going to have a faculty advisor. I know that Dr. Odihan talked about that. So really helping make sure to keep you on track towards whatever it is you want to be within public health. As far as our career outcomes, this has just been a day. Just making sure you guys are awake. So as far as career outcomes, obviously, we want to make sure that you're successful. When you're successful, we're all successful. So as far as the ASPPH data that's up there on that little square, for the nationwide data, 23% of students go on after their graduate degree to go on to further their education. 20% go into healthcare, 17% into government, 12% into nonprofit, 12% for-profit, and other 15%. So our school is very similar to that, especially when it comes to going on to professional degrees. So just for an example, which we have a lot of data, but just to give you an example, in the 2018-2019 cycle, we had 18 students apply to medical school. So they used the Mph program, either the accelerated or the traditional also, to basically to do that during their gap year to maybe medical school. And of the 18 that applied, 80% were accepted to medical school here at the University of Miami and other medical schools throughout the country. So we're very proud of that. We've had quite a number of our students from our Mph and MSPH programs go on to PhD programs, other health professions, specifically even into our own PhD programs. So that's just to kind of go over a little bit of some of the options for you after this graduate degree. But we definitely have students working. That's just some of our, where our students are working, Eli Lilly, Baptist Health. Many of them choose to stay here at the University of Miami, which is something that I'm very proud of, because obviously they really are not only impacting you guys in the future, but also they obviously really enjoyed their training here and are contributing to South Florida and to the U Miami family. So these are just some examples. We do have our Associate Director for Career and Professional Development dedicated to doing a lot of programming, making sure our students have everything they need in their toolbox when they graduate to make sure they'll be successful. These other career resources that exist, I just named them because we will be sending you this presentation, and like I mentioned, our Office of Career and Professional Development is very active, providing a lot of those programs for you to be able to take advantage of. Now, financial assistance. So we do have a lot of different support mechanisms. I know they were alluded to earlier. Institutional support. So eligible students will receive up to 25% of scholarship awards guaranteed. And so we also offer assistantships, so opportunities for students to work as graduate assistants, also research assistants, teaching assistants. Many of the students you're going to hear from wear multiple hats. They're students in the program and they're also working, whether it's with some of our faculty doing research or also providing support to the program. We also offer travel and conference awards, making sure again that we're supporting your professional development. And then also the CPH exam. So this is becoming more and more popular and more needed in the public health industry, where you would have that CPH exam. And so this year we launched not only a preparation course for our students, but also we provided funding for them to take the exam. So that's something that is an opportunity for you as well, making sure that we're supporting that. As far as other resources for funding, the FAFSA can be submitted as of October 10th, and that's needed for most scholarships and financial aid, and then these are just a few other links. But the University of Miami does have a dedicated Office of Financial Assistance here on the Gables campus that works with our students. So, do you have any questions related to admissions? I know I spoke fairly quickly, and I want to make sure I covered everything, but again, just leaving time for the students. So any questions about admissions?
Bring it.
Just a question, do you accept more than 3 recommendations?
Yeah, sure. So if you have more letters, that is perfectly fine. And we would love to get to know you through those letter writers, but 3 is the minimum. So there is no maximum.
Hi. As a non-traditional student who graduated from the University of Miami 20 years ago, how heavily would my GPA from then be weighted? And also, since I work for UN tuition remission, how much does that apply to this program? My understanding is that it does.
So, well, I'm glad to have you here interested in the program. So the GPA from 20 years ago is something that we understand. You know, it's not like that's why the admissions committee really does have a holistic review process. They're going to look at everything you've done, and obviously you're going to bring a wealth of diversity and experience to the program. So they're going to look at things a little bit differently, but they're going to require to see your transcripts, but then also your GRE score, your letters of recommendation, what you've been doing, what is your passion, and that will be conveyed through your personal statement. So it's definitely something that is holistic, and they're going to look at everything. We have a lot of students that come from all walks of life. As was spoken about earlier, MDs coming back to do the program. We have other professionals coming back to get a 2nd degree, 3rd degree, sometimes even a 4th degree. And then we also have students that come straight from undergrad. And that is really what makes our learning environment so amazing, is all of those mixes. So the admissions committee takes that into account when they review each application and each applicant very holistically and individually based on their experiences. And then as far as tuition remission, that is also a great benefit for employees of the university. That is something that we do not deem our employees eligible, but rather human resources looks at that, lets you know your eligibility. And then that benefit is something that can be used to be part of the program. Somebody on the panel happens to be a tuition remission student, and that's why she's here to kind of answer questions about that, so I'll leave that to her, but it's definitely a great benefit for employees of the university. Any other questions?
Hi, another non-traditional track here. I actually have a terminal master's in mental health counseling. I was wondering about the GRE waiver and what degrees that applies to, if there's a list or if it's kind of on a case-by-case basis.
So traditionally, students who have a terminal degree like an MD, JD, PhD, we would waive the GRE for our master's programs. The PhD programs require the GRE. We're looking at many different things that will be considered on a case-by-case basis. There's some programs that might be removing that requirement. So we're looking at everything to make sure that we are as accessible as we can to all of the students who want to be in the program. And that's something that sometimes we have to write to the dean of the graduate school and get a waiver. And so, no, it's actually not him because he does not want to be put in there. You can't do that for us. But it would be somebody in the university who looks at that. So we've had to do that. But it really, that's something very individual. We can talk about that offline.
So it's not waived for the PhD?
Not for the PhD. The GRE is required for PhD application program.
Even with the terminal rate?
All students to the PhD take the GRE to be considered, but not needed for the graduate program. Anything else? Okay, so without further ado, which is, I'd really like to thank our students who are here and our alumna, Monica Bahamon, who will be our moderator of the panel. And I really want to thank PHSA for their support. They were instrumental in us being able to have this event here. And so the PHSA is our Public Health Student Association. That's another opportunity for once you're in the program to really get involved, to have that leadership opportunity, also really get involved in community events. And so some of their members are here with us, but I really want to thank them for being here. So I'll have Monica come up, as well as all of our student panel members, and we can just have you sit up front, and then they can introduce themselves, and then you can ask them questions.
Good afternoon or evening now, everybody. My name is Monica Amon. I am the president of the Alumni Association. I graduated from the Mph Program back in 2016, and now I am the director at Jackson Health System for the HIV and Hepatitis C screening program in the emergency department. So we have a great panel tonight. I'm going to have everybody say their name and what degree they're in. And then we're going to open it to some questions from you guys, and then I'm also going to ask some specific questions so that you guys can see what their experience has been like in the program.
Good evening. I'm so happy all of you guys could come. My name is Sasha Valley-Bastian, and I am an Mph candidate graduating May 2020.
Hi everyone, my name is Amanda Green, and I am an Mph candidate, and I was in the Corpus program.
Hi, my name is Patricia Perez. I'm in the Accelerated Mph Program.
My name is Aiden Wells. I'm a first-year master's student here, and I'm pursuing a dual master's in Public Health and Latin American Studies.
Hi, my name is Sarah Brenner. I'm a second year in the MD Mph program.
Hello, my name is Natasha Kane. I am in the Master's of Science in Prevention Science and Community Health program.
Hi everyone, my name is Sabrina Piao, and I am in the MS program in Biostatistics.
Hi everyone, my name is Nicole Gazeta. I'm an employee of the university. I work in the Department of Psychiatry, so I'm that tuition remission student Andrew was talking about. And I am an Mph candidate graduating in May 2020.
Hi everyone, my name is Kevin Mishner. I'm a PhD epidemiology student.
Hi everyone, my name is Natalie Robles, and I am an MSPH student.
So for anybody on the panel, I'm going to ask maybe two people answer my questions so we get different perspectives, and then if you guys have any questions, feel free to raise your hand and we'll call on you. So for anyone on the panel, why did you pick UM? Why did you pick public health?
UM is because I felt that there were more opportunities here, even though I know if I use them, I'm not thinking if I do. And I really, really like the support. So when I first came, I met with Andrea, and I had the opportunity to meet with so many other people, like Megan Garber and all of my teachers. What I can say about UM is that the support is infinite. There's not one thing here that I've wanted to do that I've not been able to do. Whether I was interested in maternal health, pediatrics, cancer research, tobacco research, like the support is just infinite. So I want you guys to really understand that when it comes to public health. If there's anything that you're interested in, even if the university doesn't have it posted as a program, when there's a will, there's a way. Like they will open the door for you to find what it is that you want to do, whatever your passion is. And what was oh, why public health? Okay, so originally in Haiti, my end goal is to become a physician, but I also wanted to know what is a different aspect outside of medicine where I can make an impact on a big population. A lot of people think that the only way to do that is through medicine, but as you learn more about public health, I know all of you guys are obviously already interested, you learn different ways on how you can help change the system. You can't change it, overall, but there are little ways that you can find yourself to be able to make an impact on a global scale, whether it's through policy, learning about climate and health with Dr. Kumar's class. There's just so many different avenues outside of medicine that I've been able to learn that will allow me to make a really big impact on a population.
So, like I mentioned, I'm doing a dual degree in Latin American Studies as well, so that was like the biggest indicator for me. I'm from Georgia originally, and that's where I went to school. So for me, the opportunities to work with Latino populations and Latino populations from a bunch of different backgrounds, and also the opportunity to work with faculty that has connections abroad and work directly with these populations that I'm interested in, it's unparalleled to anywhere else where I would get that opportunity. So there was no choice other than Miami for me.
Thank you. Any questions from? Okay.
My question is actually directed to Sarah.
Yeah, no problem.
My name is Joseph Martinez, and I'm a current applicant of the Mph program. And I wanted to ask you, how would you describe the balance between the ND and Mph program?
Yeah, this is a great question. We get it all the time. So the MD curriculum is going through some serious facelifts right now. And every time I hear something about the new MD curriculum, I get very jealous because the changes they're making are really amazing. But as far as the balance between MD and MD/MPH coursework, so we start 6 weeks earlier, and we do kind of like, we call it like the public health boot camp, where we do an epi course, a biostats course, and like an intro to public health course. And then once you start the MD coursework, your first semester is just MD, and they kind of let you get settled into the MD coursework. And then throughout the rest of your throughout the rest of your 4 years, you kind of have the public health as a, like, I describe it as like a thread. So my classes in medicine are like blocks. Like I have like 8 weeks of cardio, I have 8 weeks of neuro, I have like 5 weeks of whatever. But my public health classes are like a thread throughout the rest of my coursework. So right now I'm in environmental health, and I take environmental health once a week, and I've been taking that, I'm gonna take it through until December. Then in January, we'll start a new public health course, and I'll take that for 1 semester throughout my other interspersed blocks of medicine. And then during your clinical years in 3rd and 4th year, so med school is broken into 2 and 2. During your clinical years in 3rd and 4th year, you do like another thread, which is like more of a seminar course. You have your capstone that you need to complete. But I really love that it is like a balance. So like my cohort is one of my favorite things about my program. I'm with 49 other public health, future public health physicians who, challenge me every day, who support me every day, who bring new ideas into my, my clinical mindset and my public health mindset every day. And so that's something that I really, really enjoy about our program. It's one of my favorite things, my classmates. But our coursework is really balanced because our public health our public health classes are just our cohort. And so it's like, for instance, like sometimes med school can get really hard. Our public health our public health course directors are very lenient. Okay, let's just move this back to last after the renal exam, and then we can do the paper then. And so that's another thing that's really great about doing a dual degree where you're in your own distinct cohort. Because there's a lot of MD, MPH degrees where you're not in your own distinct cohort, which I can imagine would be a lot more difficult. Does that answer your question?
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Since you touched about the capstone, for some of the people that are here that may not know what that is, can you explain a little bit about what a capstone is, and then somebody else from Cam's doing a thesis, explain a little bit about that, and then kind of if you have an insight into what you're doing.
Yeah. So I know that my capstone is a little bit different than a regular MPH capstone, so because ours has to be like very structured into our 4 years. So my capstone, I kind of describe it in 2 parts. So I have like a fieldwork component, and then I have a capstone project component. And so my fieldwork component I completed this summer. I was one of the students who went abroad, and I received funding for that, which was amazing because I would not have been able to go without funding. And a lot of my classmates traveled both domestically and internationally with help from the school. So I did my fieldwork on child malnutrition in rural Belize, and I validated an anthropologic screening tool there. And so that was my field work. So I did 150 hours of work in the field, and then my capstone project is going to have to be an actual like product that I produce. And so I'm working on like validating the actual screening tool, which might be my capstone. I haven't quite decided yet. Or working in one of the clinics that I work in Little Haven to produce my capstone project. But like I kind of describe it as like your field work is something that you are just getting experience in, and then your capstone can kind of carry over into from your fieldwork, or your capstone can be like a new project that doesn't have to do with your fieldwork, but maybe something else really cool.
Yeah. So I actually switched to MSPH. I started off as an MPH, switched to MSPH in January of last year, or January of this year actually. But so I had started out and planned my field experience, which is kind of like the prerequisite to your capstone project. So I actually still went out to the field and I did my field work. I did it with Dr. Gwen. She runs a pediatric mobile clinic. She's doing some amazing work in the community. And so I kind of got a inside view into things that are going on in the community, and she was very interested in adverse childhood experiences, and we talked about it, and it became something that I became interested in. And while there wasn't data that I could use from the pediatric mobile clinic for my thesis, I found a publicly available data set to use. And so right now I'm working with her and Dr. Tulai, which is, she's I think the head of the MS Biostats division. And so we're working on analyzing this publicly available data set and looking at adverse childhood experiences here in Florida. So right now I'm in the analyses phase of my thesis, and yeah, it's coming along.
Thank you. Any of you that are, I guess, starting off your MPH or MSPH, what was your transition like coming from undergrad into graduate school? Go ahead.
I didn't hear the end of your question. So actually, I started the Mph program, and I had already a master's before. So I had a master's in microbiology that I did in Germany. I did my bachelor's at FIU in biology, and then I went to Germany, did a master's in microbiology and immunology. And then I wanted to make that transition between basic science and public health, because I worked with gonorrhea during my master's, and I became really interested in the disparities that existed and that gap of knowledge, that existed in a lot of sexually transmitted diseases. And so I thought that the MPH was like a sort of a good bridge between basic science and my future goal, which is to do a PhD in epidemiology, more specifically in infectious disease epidemiology. So for me, maybe it's a little bit different because I'm not coming straight from undergrad. But I think in general, the transition is a very smooth one because, again, like we mentioned before, a lot of the faculty and the other students are very welcoming to all students, and they really do make you feel at home at the classes. The professors all know that a lot of us, we also work. We have either part-time or full-time, or we're doing research. And so a lot of the classes, they do take that into consideration, that we do have busy lives as well. The course load and everything, I think it's great. I'm in the accelerated program, so I'm taking a little bit extra classes compared to everybody else. I'm completing the program in 1 year instead of 2. But I think that because the faculty is so supportive that it does make that transition easy, and so far I've been really happy. So, yeah.
So, like I said, I was 4+1, so when I was transitioning, I actually was still in my last year of undergrad, and going into that, I was not really sure what to expect starting out with the Mph program, and it ended up being an amazing transition. It really helped me in my undergraduate classes as well, because as an undergraduate public health student, you also have to do a capstone project here, and so I was actually able to talk to my faculty advisor for my Mph program, and she was able to connect me with people with the Florida Department of Health, and so I got to do an experience that's typically only offered to master's students and use it for my undergraduate project. So really just being able to also mesh the curriculum from the master's with what I was learning as a last year public health student here at UM. I thought the transition was super smooth and definitely was very helpful to have all those extra tools and advisors.
Any questions from you guys? Okay. Can you talk a little bit more about the PHSA or any other student involvement clubs that we have in the department?
So I am a part of PHSA. I'm actually the VP of Community Outreach for PHSA. And I got involved, so it's available to students as soon as you get into the program. But this is the first year that I'm on the board, and it's amazing to see what goes on, you know, how much outreach they're doing. We've planned social events, community outreach. Tomorrow we're actually going to a local high school, Booker T, Washington, for cooking canes. So we go and cook with the students, kind of tell them more about nutritional facts and things that they should be looking out for. With the hurricane, we had the opportunity to volunteer for the relief effort. We did a beach cleanup earlier on in the semester. They do social events. We went out to Fun Dimension. I'm not so familiar with it, but we're going out to the Ronald McDonald House, and we went out to Lotus House. So just a lot of opportunities to kind of get involved in your community and meet students within the program and form friendships, you know, outside of your classes, because that's a very important part of the grad school experience too. You know, we're all here to get an education, but it's great to, you know, network and meet new people and just meet people different from yourselves and see that there's some common ground, you know, getting involved in the community, whether it be, you know, something that you're interested in. So a lot of cool things going on with with PHSA. And I think PHSA Performing was actually the one that started cooking canes, and that's kind of been a tradition that's kept on going throughout the years. So it's very cool.
Thank you. So anybody on the panel that's working with faculty or as an admin assistant in the department, can you touch on your experience a little bit?
I can start. So I am a graduate assistant with Dr. Perino for the curriculum committee. So that's been awesome. If you're interested, I think she does some work in prevention too. So if you're interested, definitely check her out. She's awesome. Family, maternal, child, and depression and things like that. So she's doing some awesome work. So I kind of get the chance to work with her on some of her research interests as well as work with her on my graduate assistantship, which is the curriculum committee. I'm also a teacher's assistant, a teaching assistant for the medical biostatistics class, which is great because I get to meet all the new students that are coming in and, you know, kind of help them. I did not have any idea that I would be as interested in biostatistics as I am. Learn how to code and do all kinds of cool stuff. So it was very surprising for me, but I have loved it, and so I love working with the new students that are taking it for the first time, especially because I was in your shoes, you know, just the year before, semester before.
So let me just say something here. So can I just add one more organization? So we have the Epidemiology Journal Club. It's no longer called the Epidemiology Journal Club. It's now called the Public Health Sciences Journal Club. So it's a good club for the students. When you come in, every master's and PhD student is automatically a member of the journal club, and it's an avenue for you to interact more with the staff and faculty, and also an avenue to learn new methods that are not being taught in class, and also it's an avenue to share your research work with your peers. And regarding working with faculty, I'm in the PhD program. I I work with Dr. Kubetz, who works on firefighter cancer initiatives. So basically our research work is preventing cancer among firefighters, and we study the exposures of firefighters. And I also work with Dr. Caban Martinez. I assist him as a TA in his environmental health course for medical students. And that also is a very interesting class, so I get to see. Yes. Yeah, and yeah, so there's so many opportunities to TA here, and yeah, there's many nice opportunities to work.
Yeah, and I also wanted to touch upon that a little bit. I worked with Dr. Prado when I was a student, and even now, you know, we still collaborate in things, and I was able to publish and go to conferences. So it's a really huge opportunity if there's a will, there's a way, like somebody on the panel said earlier. If you want to get involved, everybody in faculty is always open to, you know, having you volunteer, come be a research associate, do presentations, and it's really nice to have that opportunity and that accessibility with faculty. Okay. Any questions from people? Okay. Can you tell us about any international or global experience that any of you may have had?
I guess I kind of touched on this, but I did my fieldwork this summer in rural Belize on child malnutrition. So yeah, I got the grant for, there's a special grant for like, that we applied to through the Mph Program called the Population Health Scholar Award. And a lot of my classmates also went abroad. And we all had a lot of definitely very different experiences. I am in the business of like making my life a little bit harder. So I wrote my project kind of from scratch and just found a community partner who, well, I obviously talked with my community partner first and was like, you know, what kind of needs do you have? And then wrote my project from scratch based on the needs that they had in their community. Whereas a lot of my other classmates went through established connections that the Department of Public Health already had. So, you know, past Capstone, the projects that students have been on, they use those methods. There's other organizations. So I know that Dr. King has one set up in Israel that you can go and do your field work there. And so, yeah, do you have any specific questions? I can definitely answer them, but I don't really want to get into my projects.
All right, I know we're a little over time, so I want to take the last opportunity if anybody has any questions. If not, we're going to wrap it up. Okay, thank you, everyone.
So for the males in the audience, I promise you we do have males in the program. I want to let you know I reached out to both males and females. I tried to have a balance, and only the females showed up, so they get it done. So thank you ladies, for being with us, and it's really awesome. Thank you for providing so much information. We encourage you to come out. We're on the Gables campus, but the programs are located on the medical campus, so we encourage you to come out. We'll give you a tour of campus. You can sit in on a class. You can talk to professors, to students. So we really want to make sure that you really understand the program and really understand what we're doing so that you can hopefully join the DPHS family. Now I'd like to introduce to you somebody who you already heard from as he was filling in for the MS in Biostatistics program. But Dr. David Lee is actually our Director of Graduate Programs. And so he is, I think, one of the longest standing members in the department. So I just want to have him just give you some closing remarks, and then that's it. So thank you very much.
Great. I will keep it brief. So, one thing I wanted to emphasize that hasn't been emphasized so far tonight is that we are very deliberate in the selection of the students into our various programs. And what you have in front of you here is an example of that diversity and passion that really extends the learning environment in ways that are simply impossible for faculty to do alone. And so a lot of the coursework and projects that you do are done in small groups, and that's kind of a longitudinal component of all of our coursework. And that is essential and valuable training. And And we are, as I said, very deliberate in the selection of our student body. We look for diversity in many, many different forms, even academic diversity. Folks coming from, you may feel like I'm a non-traditional person, I've had a non-traditional educational experience. We actually value that and we welcome that, because the life experience that you all are bringing into the classroom is an essential component of the learning environment that we seek to nurture. The other thing that I'll say is that for those of you that join our program in the fall, you can help me celebrate my 30th year as a professor here. A proud king and father too, who raised two young boys who are now strapping young men. So I think I will just close by saying that you've heard this theme throughout the night, and I truly believe that the greatest strength of our program, that what really sets us apart from other programs that you might be considering, is this opportunity to embed yourself and work with faculty that are engaged in very interesting research, and the fact that we are in a medical school setting provides even more unique opportunities to get engaged in some very, very interesting research. So thank you all for coming tonight. We've got a ton of food over there. We have the room for as long as we need it. So feel free to mingle and ask questions and grab some food.